and filled with hope. My guest today is Dr. K, and she is quite accomplished. She's going to be telling us about a number of her accomplishments, and she overcame some incredible things to get to where she is today. But she is the founder of Freedom by Design. She is a wife, an educator, a realtor. She is a woman of God, and she is here with us today. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone.
It's such a pleasure to have you. You've got this beautiful smile. You're filled with all this wonderful energy. You've got all those certificates, accomplishments behind you, and the beautiful roses. It looks like you've had everything. Everything just handed to you, right? Just there you go. Not quite the case, right?
Not at all, Dr. Jacalyn. It is not. I tell people all the time, I don't look like what I've been through. Trust me.
Well, I really appreciate you coming here to share your story. And what I'd like to start off with before we get into the story, tell us about the Freedom by Design movement. Tell us what it is you're doing today and the value that you're bringing to the world.
Absolutely. So, Freedom by Design actually began about 3 years ago. I went to this conference, and in my mind, I went with a thought of how was I going to be around some strong women who would help me make some money. In my mind, that's what it was about. But God had some other plans for me. When I left that conference, I started reaching out to a few of my very close friends and family, and I asked them, tell me 3 words that you think of when you hear my name. And many of those were, I got about 5 words, but we condensed them down to 3: engage, encourage, and empower. And I said, okay. And I started just going live. I just would take my phone and I would walk and I would talk sometimes when me and my husband would be walking in the mornings. And that those talks actually changed or transitioned into a ministry where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go live on Facebook and YouTube. And I do just what I said. I engage, I encourage, and I empower. I allow the Holy Spirit to work through me to reach other people. I am honest, open, transparent about my life. I put myself out there because I know that there's somebody that's looking and saying, how can I do it? And I know if I was able to do it, then they can. So Freedom by Design is about being true to who you are and allowing God to actually work through you, releasing all of your control, releasing everything, complete surrender to Him so that He can show us all of the mighty wonders that He can truly do through our lives, not what we can do on our own.
Yes, that is beautiful. I love that. Thank you. And by the way, there's plenty of other people who are loving it as well. Let's take a look at some of the comments that we have. Hello to everyone. Okay, we've got over on YouTube, BC Wright with a heart. And hey back. And we've got also on YouTube, Tish Mills. I am so excited to hear what the Lord is going to pour out through you, Dr. K.
Yes.
And over on Facebook, we've got Avril. How do you say Avril's last name?
Ocillian Similian, and it's her birthday. So happy birthday, Avril.
Happy birthday. Yay. Thank you so much for watching. And also on YouTube, how do you say this person's name? Shinita?
Yes.
Shinita, beautiful. As are you. Okay. So now that we know what you're doing today, let's hear about the journey. Let's hear where it started. You were just sharing some things with me backstage, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, wow. I just start wherever you want with the adversity piece, please.
Absolutely. So, if I may, Dr. Jacalyn, let me just read a little bit of my introduction. It starts off in my book, Exposed, Broken Crayon Still Colored. We have so many ideas about what we think our lives should resemble. Some of our ideas are realistic and some are far from the reality in which we actually live. When I reflect on my life, I know by all accounts that I'm not supposed to be here. All of the statistics were stacked against me. I'm a product of a teenage pregnancy. I grew up in what society says was a dysfunctional family by many accounts, and I took everything that I knew out into the world. I tried it and I tested countless times. And you see, I had to be broken, shattered, damaged before I can truly realize where my help originated. I needed that time and those obstacles in life to understand that God had a greater purpose for my life that superseded anything that I ever imagined. You see, Dr. Jacalyn, I started out, I live now in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm from Miami, born and raised. And I grew up in a home where there was about 11 of us at any given time. My mom and my dad were both 16 when they had me. So I lived with my grandparents, my uncles, and some cousins. So we had a lot of family coming in and out. With that being said, we all had to share everything. It looked different. I spent a lot of my days as I was growing up envying other people, looking at my friends who had two-parent homes and wondering, what that was like, and seeing people be able to go and do things where we didn't have necessarily the financial means to do it. My mom gave us what we needed, not always what we wanted. So in going through that, I grew up and I was like, you know what? I see what I want. I see what I don't want to be. Again, my mom was a great example of working hard and being resilient, but my father on the other side, he was an absent father. He dealt with substance abuse. He dealt with all of the things that were not good about Miami. And I was that little girl sitting on the couch waiting on my dad. Although my mom, my uncles, and my grandparents, they gave me all the love they could, I still yearned for something, which left a void in my life from the time that I was a little girl until I was a grown woman. And that void caused me to make some bad decisions, but God was there the whole time guiding me through. And through that, I'm like, you know what? I learned, and I'm almost 47 next month, but it took me so long to realize that, all of these things that I thought were negatives, they actually made me the woman who I am today. So I'm super excited about that. I'm excited about the trials, the tests, the testimonies, the different relationships that I was in when I found myself out there looking for that thing that I didn't have, looking for my father's love. I started to seek it in different places, but I never was able to find it until I truly surrendered myself to God.
Wow, that is beautiful. I love that. We've got some more comments, by the way. Let's see. Love you, Dr. K. And yes, hi, Roxanne Dixon. Hi, Dr. K. So you clearly are inspiring so many people, and you've got tremendous energy and that passion. So you were growing up, you had all these things that you had to deal with. You were at some point looking outside and saying, look what they have and look what I don't have. And then you found God and started to look inside. What are some of the things that you remember that maybe were really revelations to you that you thought, wow, I never actually thought of it this way, or I never even saw that before? Can you share some of those with us?
What I realized is I was so angry at first. I went through different stages. A lot of who I was as a woman, as I was matriculating through life, dealt with that relationship and the abandonment issues that I had from my father not being there. A few years ago, actually in 2016, my father was actually killed in a hit and run accident. And it's the unfortunate piece is that it was only about that time did I realize like everything that had actually happened. And living in Miami, I would have never moved from Miami. Hurricane Katrina, believe it or not, my namesake, actually forced me to move to Atlanta. My house was flooded. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to move. And then I said, maybe not. And then 30 days later, Hurricane Norma. So I was flooded by Katrina. Then my roof was damaged by Norma. And I know it was God saying, if you're not going to go, I'm going to make you go. You already have done everything that I've needed you to do here. You can't sit in your comfort zone. You can't wallow in your situation. You can't be the victim anymore. No more pity parties. It's time for you to stand up. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. But what about all of those people who were supposed to be there to support me? God said, I've given you everything you needed. You're going to have to go. And I ended up transitioning to Atlanta. Me and my son. It was just he and I. We came, and actually my cousin. She stayed with us about a month, but she went back. But through that, I started having a better relationship with my father. He had gotten out of prison. We were able to kind of pen pal, but it was still some resentment in my heart because I felt like, I went through all of these things in my life, and my life would have been different had he been there. But what God was showing me is that he was there all along. God was there all along. Everything I needed was there all along. So I had all of this frustration built up with my father, and I was acting out in so many different ways. But God was saying, hey, I got you. I've always had you, no matter what it was. When you got the 5 degrees, that was me. That wasn't you. I know you did it because you wanted to position yourself where you wouldn't have to ask anybody for anything and have them risk the chance of them saying no. But that was me. I did that. When you moved to Atlanta from Miami, 30 something years old, you and your son, I took care of you. I put you in a position where you would be in a school situation that was a family environment. He gave me new friends. I found my church home. I grew up in the church. So when I came here, I was a little off kilter, but I still had some things in my heart. And it was only at my father's actual homegoing ceremony when my uncle said, if you knew him, you would know that Katrina, was the apple of his eye. And everybody who got up just kept talking about how my father loved me. And I was sitting there and I just started to bawl because I'm like, all of this time, I was so angry with him. I wanted him to be there. I needed him. And God was saying, hey, I gave you grace for every mistake that you made, for every bad decision, for everything. You have to release and give him grace so you can move forward and you can do the things that I have called you to do. Because yes, you were that quiet little girl. Yes, you were that little girl who was looking and seeing all of these other things. But what I have for you supersedes anything that you could ever think or imagine.
Mm-hmm. That is so powerful. I have a question for you based on a comment that we have. Let's see. Is it Siobhan Zale?
Siobhan Zell, yeah.
Siobhan Zale, hi. That's good, Dr. K. God will make you move when you refuse to. So my question for you, it's really for us to all think as humans, is we stand steadfast and we're not going to do it. We refuse to let go of it. We're not moving. We're not changing. And I think a lot of it has to do with fear. And when we give it to God, it goes away.
Indeed. Indeed.
But why do we fight so hard?
You know what it is? Because, and I talk about this all the time, we know in the spirit realm, we know what it's supposed to be. We read our Bibles, we're very clear on it, but we still deal with the flesh. We still, our spirit is willing, but our flesh is so weak because we see what we want. We want to see the whole picture. We're so accustomed to, we live in a society of immediate gratification. I want to see it all before I move, but God doesn't work that way. He says faith without works is dead. You're going to have to believe in me, take one step, and then he will orchestrate the next few steps. But we get so stuck, we get so grounded in where we are, and we are comfortable because we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. Even though we might be wallowing in mess, we would rather wallow in the mess than walk into the unknown, because at least I know what this mess is. I don't know what that mess is over there. And that's when God has to come in and he has to really shake some things up, because I promise you, I would probably be still in Miami right now. I was offered a promotion at the time that I was getting ready to leave. And at my age, it was unheard of for me to be, I wasn't even qualified for the promotion. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to stay, because I was working at what they would call the district level. I came to Georgia and went back into the classroom. So it was like, oh my goodness, God, you want, but I've done all of this stuff here. Are you sure you want me to move to Georgia to go back in the class? And he said, yes, you have to go back into the class. And he kept me in the classroom for 2 years, but he put people around me who were elevating me, who were pouring into me, who were pulling out my leadership qualities. They saw them, but he had me stagnant because it was still some stuff that he needs to do. And that's what happens to many of us. We get stuck in our comfort zones because it's comfortable, even though it's mess. We get stuck in the mess and we're like, well, I can wash that off and I'll be okay. But God is saying, no, I'm going to strip it from you. I'm going to break you down to the lowest common denominator, because you're going to move, because that's not where our purpose lies, in the mess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with you. Well said. How do you think the ego plays a role when we talk about the flesh body and we talk about the ego, and maybe not being so egocentric and being more heart centric, and then things will appear that didn't appear before because now we really are listening to what God wants for us?
Absolutely. It's interesting that you asked that question. I see the comments. I see where Shanita said positioning, because that's what it's about, positioning, and it's about spiritual maturity. I can hear my mother's voice saying none of us are spiritually mature. We're spiritually maturing. You know, when we're a baby, we want to test things, we want to touch things, we want to see how it's going to work. When we start to matriculate, we realize, hey, that stove, if I touch it, it's hot. But and then when we start getting older, it's like, okay, well, I know what that's going to be like. I know what that's going to do. I'll do this and I can get that. And God is saying, you don't know, because I'm the ultimate authority. I am the one who can change it. Even when it looks like a thing, when you know what's supposed to happen in that situation, he can move it. And I've seen him move in my life and in the lives of countless others, that it makes it say, well, I'm going to show you, since you think you're the ultimate authority, let me break you all the way down. And that brings me, Dr. Jacalyn, to my book. My book was titled Exposed, and he gave me the title. And I was like, oh, God, I'm ready. I got so many people that I'm ready to expose. Let's get it going. And God was like, no, this is not what that's about. I'm like, well, yeah, because I had it hard, and it was difficult for me, and I had to fight for everything. And nobody paid for me to go to school, and nobody did this, and nobody helped me buy my first house, and he listened to me. And then he said, you know what? The book is titled Exposed, but the book is not about you exposing other people. The book says revealed in his presence. So I was revealed in his presence. And it was a difficult thing to look at when you talk about ego, because he had to show me who I was. And looking in the mirror of self-reflection, it's a difficult thing. It's easy for us to talk about other people and tell them what they need to do and how they need to change and how they need to shift, and if it was you, what you would do. But it's difficult when we have to look, and he strips us down into our bare form, and we're standing there naked, and we got to look at us and say, oh my God, did I say that? Is that who I was? Did I act that way? Did I behave that way? And he's like, absolutely, yes. He'll get rid of the ego. He'll show us who's in charge, because he is definitely large and in charge.
Great points. And it is after we do take a look back and see how we were, who we were, it is startling that we couldn't see it before. We couldn't see it. So we are going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. There's so much more to talk about. When we come back, we're going to be leaving everybody uplifted. We're going to be talking hope and inspiration, and the comments keep pouring in. Thank you, everybody. I love your fan club. It's fantastic. So we're going to take a quick break, and stay with us here on USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV, home of Talking Heads, and welcome to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York. Our show is stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity. And my guest is Dr. K. Dr. K, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Dr. Jacalyn, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I am truly enjoying myself on this afternoon.
I am enjoying having you here as well, and I love all of the participation from the audience, so thank you so much. So in our first segment, we were talking about the Freedom by Design movement. We were talking about the adversity and the challenge that you've faced in your life, and you're a woman of God, you're an author, you're a realtor, and you just have so much positive energy. It's just actually making me feel like I should go run 10 miles. So thank you for that. So Dr. K, I want to turn to the inspiration, the hope, the people getting out of their own way, realizing that there's something larger out there, that if they just put their life in God's hands, if they just ask for him to show the way might not be exactly the way you want it to be, but it is the way that you were meant to go, the way that you're meant to be. So you've got your book there also, so I hope that you'll read for us from there. But so let's talk about now, how do you inspire so many people? I already know the answer, but let's hear it directly from you.
So what I do every week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go live and I share a inspirational word, and that word is downloaded fresh every day. I don't script it out or anything. It on Mondays we do motivational Monday. On Wednesday we do wisdom Wednesday, where we invite someone to come and share their story. And again, no part of it is scripted. We're talking and having an intimate conversation. And I say other people just get to eavesdrop on it. Stories of overcoming and just understanding, hey, everybody might look polished on the outside, but it was a struggle. It was a fight for it. So understanding that part. And on Fridays are Freedom Friday. So that's when we just let it all out. But, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I was looking in the comments also, Dr. Jacalyn, and I saw as BC Wright was, she noted, God can't expand our territory while we're standing in Egypt. We have to go where we're told. And, as I sit here and I think about that, a lot of us get stuck in that. And those are some of the things that I talk about on a weekly basis. Like I talk about faith without action and all of those different things. Like, where are we right now? What is God calling us to do? And how can we do it without getting ourselves in the way? We have to move. And I think back to when I was actually writing the book, and it was a tough thing for me to do. I thought it would be easy just so the words would flow, but they didn't always flow. I actually had to take a couple trips so that I can clear my mind, because I was asking God, and many of us ask with our mouths for him to do a thing, but we don't really follow it with action. And when he starts to do it, like you said, it might not look like what we thought it was supposed to look like in our mind, but for him, he had it plotted out. So I think about when the Israelites were being released out of Egypt, but they didn't go right into the promised land because they weren't ready. They weren't mentally ready. So it does sometimes take us a little time for him to get our minds shifted. And I thought about the fact that I was looking at my book, and it says, and one day I was listening to an inspirational message that focused on character and contribution. It really made me reflect on what I was doing and whether I was doing what God had created me to do. The message tugged at me for a few days and caused me to take action. I started working on my brand. I started reaching out to people because I realized Freedom by Design wasn't about t-shirts. It wasn't about a slogan. It wasn't about just those things. It was about really being able to reach people at their core. It was about really being able to surrender myself and not just talk about it today and then be something else on tomorrow, but to truly give myself to the world, give myself to God so that he can use me the way he wants to, but be obedient and disciplined in those things that he has called for me to do. So when I sit and I think about it, I'm like, the inspiration, I really get inspired by the people who attend the Motivational Mondays, the Wisdom Wednesday, Freedom Friday, when they put their information in the chat. When I get those text messages that say, I read your book and I couldn't put it down. It was so much of me in it. And thank you so much for letting me see. When I take pictures and show a picture of me, not all dressed up, but just as I am. So when they see the other side, they have a basis of comparison and they can understand, like, God, he picked me up and he dusted me off and he polished me up. He did this because otherwise I would be still sitting in sin. I would be still sitting in a mess. But he said, I have something else for you. And if he can do it for me, then he can do it for somebody else. And that's where the whole inspiration piece comes in, because I don't want anybody that I come in contact with to be left the same. They should be different. They should see his light through me. Something that I said, something that I did, the way that I act, or even just greeted them or made them feel. It should be different. It shouldn't be business as usual when we're coming in contact to people, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And I just want to address something. Someone on Facebook said that they can't hear you, but I can hear you just fine. And so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Pamela, thank you for letting us know. The one thing I really like about you, Dr. K, is you're very authentic. You're very authentic. You're very passionate. You're very transparent. And I'd like to turn the show over to helping other people find their authenticity, helping other people become transparent. And it's very difficult for people to do this. What do you think the reasons are?
Because we have to look at ourselves. Again, I can say, oh, My dad wasn't everything he needed to be, so that's why I am. Yes, that did happen, but that's not why I am who I am. That's just a small part of it. When we look at when we have to self-reflect, and that was one of the hardest things that I had to learn to do, was to own my stuff. Everybody enjoys being the victim because then they can talk about other people and we don't have to own the stuff that we have to do for ourselves. But if we truly want to impact change within us, we have to be able to be self-reflective. We have to really step back and take account for our own actions and really look at it and say, hey, okay, I talked to God. I told him I wanted him to use me. But when he gets ready to use me and push me out in front of people, I can't say that I don't want to talk. When I told him that he can use me the way that he sees fit, I can't say that I want to be in a situation to help others when I don't know how to talk to my husband, when I treat my son inappropriately, or when if I'm being disrespectful to my mother. That doesn't work. You have to make sure you're looking in the mirror. So as I come up and I'm speaking on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I tell people all the time, sometimes the message is for them, sometimes it's for me, because he has a way of gently correcting us in what we're doing. So we want to make sure, as easy as it is for us to talk about other people and say what's wrong with them, time is, for me in my life, time is out for that. It's time for us to do a self-analysis. If that thing that's going on with another person is so bad, what can I do to help them? That's the kind of vein that we have to start looking at. And we have to look at, even when we have been the victim in a situation, and there are so many who have truly been hurt and experienced some hurt. But on the other side of hurt is where our power is. We have to take that power back from whoever it was that might have victimized us, whoever it was that might have hurt us. We got to take the power back and walk in God's boldness, because he didn't call us to shrink back. He didn't call us to have fear, anxiety, or doubt. No, he said that we're joint heirs to the kingdom. We got to walk with boldness and in expectancy. I just talked this morning about Ephesians, 3:20 and 21. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all I could ever ask or think, according to his power that works in us. So we have his power, so we don't have to shrink back. We don't have to continue to be a victim. We are victors through him. It doesn't matter what we've been through. That was just something to give us a little more strength for where we're going. And the places that we'll go for him, oh my goodness, they'll be amazing. They'll be beautiful. People will wonder, how did that little girl all the way from Richmond Heights, Florida, end up doing X, Y, and Z? Oh, it wasn't her. It's the God that's all in and through me. It's him that he's using me and walking through me. So that right there, Dr. Jacalyn, gets me super excited.
Amen to that. That's fantastic. And more comments keep coming in. So, Dr. K, I just want to ask you to listen to this scenario, something that recently happened, because I think it'll be helpful for people. So I've met a lot of wonderful people in Clubhouse, wonderful people, but I went off of Clubhouse for a while, I don't know, a few months, and I went back on the other day. It was in the evening. I went into, I'm not going to say what room, it doesn't matter. And the room was highly charged. People were yelling and screaming at each other and cutting people off. And I thought to myself, why are we judging each other? Why can't people just be able to express how they feel without us judging them, so that we can express how we feel without being judged? So what do you think God wants for us in terms of judging or not judging?
You know what? The first thing that popped into my mind as you were saying that is, hurt people want to hurt people. People who are experiencing pain, people who are suffering, people whose voices in other platforms or situations in their home might not be able to be heard. They use those situations to come out and antagonize, to lash out at people because they're hurting. You know, what would God want us to do? God says he wants us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. You know, he wants us to be able to forgive. And, you know, we'll ask, how many times do I have to forgive them, Lord? Well, you keep going as often as I've forgiven you, because everybody doesn't know all the things that you have done, but he does. Everybody doesn't know that you're not perfect. Everybody doesn't know what you look like behind the facade, but God knows what we look like naked and exposed. So we have to be mindful and careful of that. We all have an opinion based on our experiences, based on where we've come from, based on even where we are in a certain situation in time. But we got to be careful how we move and how we treat other people, because you never know what one little word, how one little word can incite something in somebody and they go way off to the left. He's calling us to be able to bring his people in to the kingdom. And guess what? That means we're going to have to go in some places that don't look like what we want it to look like. That means we're not just going into the church. We're not just going into places where we can be dressed up and look cute and look fly. We're going to have to go into some dark places. We're going to have to go into some dirty places. We're going to have to listen to some people. And we're going to then be able to, once we listen and we hear where they're coming from, then we'll be able to get that discernment and the wisdom from God, so we can speak the appropriate words so that they'll be heard. Because when people are yelling and fussing and back and forth, they're not hearing anything. They're not, nobody is here. They're not even listening. They're listening with the expectation of, what can I say when I get my turn? Or if they don't give me my turn, I'm just going to do this. We got to be mindful and careful about that. I agree. Yes.
And one thing I just want to share with our audience is that we're here to educate and to help lift each other up, help support one another. So I'm a big advocate for people who want to learn how to listen, because I think when you learn how to listen with an open mind, without judging, without trying to wait until the second the person stops talking, that you jump in with whatever it is you have to say. I've been waiting this whole time, if she just stops so I can jump in. No, we have to really listen to each other, because I believe that's what God wants for us, so that we can have unity instead of always finding reasons to disagree. That you said something so powerful that actually did not come into my mind until you said it. But maybe many of those people who are in that room, they're not being heard at home.
No.
And so they're now like, let me take this anger out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it on someone else. But I think it's our job to lift people up and support them. And yes, there absolutely is a difference from hearing and listening. That's one of the things that I actually teach on. I have a whole seminar on the power of listening, but not to digress. So this has been really powerful. And now I'd like to move into the hope piece, because you represent everything about inspiration and hope. And as we approach the holiday season here in the United States, Thanksgiving is coming up. There's so much to be grateful for. Just a quick share. Yesterday, I took some food and clothing to a food bank, and I was driving there, and I'm in New Jersey. It wasn't that far from me. And there were people lined up outside of this, what looks like a very nice neighborhood, so to speak. They were lined up waiting for food. And I thought, we're always talking about another country, another town, another city. But right here, probably in everywhere every one of us lives, people are homeless, people need food. And if we can help them find God, if we can find God and help others, I think that so important.
Absolutely. When you said that, I think of so many of the people who I interact with that have their own, what is it? Gosh, help me think. Their own ministries, their own LLCs, and they do so much to help people. But it made me think about a lady, because I work in education in my day job, and it made me think about a teacher. She was coming to work every day, but she was hungry. There are so many people who are functioning, but it's like they're on the borderline of being evicted. They're trying to make sure that they can keep coming to work just so, hey, I can get a check so that maybe I can be able to do what I need to do. So we can't ever discount what's going on around us. And like you said, the holidays are coming. We have so much to be thankful and grateful for, but also the holidays are a time of sadness for some people. I know we just lost my uncle a couple of weeks ago. It's been about 3 weeks now, and he was like my father. And we're having Thanksgiving at his home. So, it's going to look different for us. It's going to feel different. Sometimes the holidays are triggers for people. So that's where we have to reach out and we have to pull some people in. If we're having these big, large events and, we have an abundance of food, don't worry if somebody takes a plate home. Don't worry if they take some extra. That's okay. It's not a problem. You want to be able to share. You want to be able to give a abundantly, not just hoard everything and keep it to yourself, if that makes sense. So we want to be able to help and reach out and look for the signs. Sometimes it's the people who are right close to you. You got to see what's going on.
Yes, 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 yes. Let's read some of the comments. I'll leave it to you. Would you like to read some of them since you know that these are your fans here?
Absolutely. I see right here where Siobhan Zell, she was still on the be slow to speak and quick to listen. And then BC Wright said that it's right there. Talking louder doesn't mean you're being heard. Sometimes it just means you're being loud. So no one is listening, you're just louder. And that's a whole word. Shanita says, yes, Dr. Jacalyn, it's really sad that it's right in your face, yet being ignored. And it is right in our face on jobs that we have. And we don't pay attention. Sometimes people talk about like, oh, she wears the same thing over and over. Perhaps that's all she has. Or they smell funny. Perhaps the water's not working. Perhaps we have a deeper conversation and do something not where everybody has to know it's being done and embarrass the person, because we have to allow people to maintain their dignity. It's nothing wrong. I love Secret Santa. I love being a blessing in the quiet spaces. Everything doesn't require a picture. Everything doesn't require a post so that someone knows you did it. Do it gently. I remember sometimes going to work and I would go to Dunkin' Donuts to get a donut or something and pull up and I reach my debit card out to pay. And they're like, no, the car in front of you has already paid. And you're like, wait. And you couldn't pay attention because you were so busy doing what you were doing in your car. You don't even know what color the other car was. And you're like, you know what? Let me pay it forward. And now you're paying and not even worrying if they're buying enough donuts for a football team. You just cover it and you keep going.
It's so true. It's so true. And I love what some of the people are writing here because when you judge someone, you don't know what they're going through. I'll just give a personal share for those who don't know, but I have 3 autoimmune illnesses. One of them is ulcerative colitis, which is the dreaded bathroom disease. Mm-hmm. And people would always see me, she's all dressed up. She's this, she's that. Well, you don't know that I was literally crawling through the bathroom trying to make it there. And I didn't make it, and I lived with that for most of my life. Guys would make fun of me, wouldn't date me because they said I was disgusting. And so the point is, you never know what somebody's going through. So give them grace and think to yourself, what can I do to help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said a mouthful when you said give them grace, because we expect it. We want it. We want his grace and mercy. And he shows up every morning and extends it to us, but we struggle to give it to other people because we put them in this category or in this bottle. And we say that you have to be perfect to me when I'm less than perfect. How can I expect that? It's totally unfair. And again, that goes back to that self-reflection, looking in the mirror and seeing how I move versus looking through a window and seeing how someone else is moving. That's real different. It's hard. It's a journey.
It is. And we're going to make mistakes along the way. And we just have to ask for his forgiveness and then do the next right thing for somebody else. That's what every day I just do my prayers. I say my affirmations, I meditate, and then what is it I can do today to help someone? So people are always reaching out, asking for this, that, or the other. And I always try to say yes. If I can say yes, I say yes. And it might be inconvenient. It might not be the right time, but I'm going to do it. If I can do it, if God gives me the strength to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yes. You know what, Dr. Jacalyn, I see that comment from Siobhan Zell. She says, we become arrogant and forget where we come from at times.
So true. So true. And that's the ego again, isn't it?
That's it. Right there. That's it. Rearing its ugly head. Mm-hmm.
So as we come to the end of the program, and we talked about this Thanksgiving here in the United States, and really every day is a great opportunity to practice Thanksgiving and be thankful. But Dr. K, you've shared so many wonderful, powerful tips today. What else can you share for people who don't have all of the materialistic things that we have. Like I just mentioned to the people waiting in line to get food, and they might not be able to, maybe just having a computer or phone to watch this program is a huge thing for them. How can they find God? How can they give thanks? How can they give grace?
You know what? For those people, like I was saying earlier, it's going to require us, those people who have, to go out and reach, and not in the places where we want to go, in the places where he is leading us, the places where we have to go. For the individual who does not have a cell phone, who can't go online and watch a program, they have the opportunity where local churches are open, where they can go and they can have an opportunity to fellowship and worship and meet some other people, or even in a non-traditional setting. Because if the pandemic hasn't taught us anything, it's taught us how to come together and have a small group Bible study, how to come together and just share what we've learned. I know myself personally, we've started a women's Bible study group through the pandemic that's still going, being able to just share. And people have to understand, it's not a prescription that you have to be a Christian. You don't have to dress a certain way, look a certain way, or move a certain way. God wants us to just open our mouths and surrender everything to him, to turn it over to him, just to say, Lord, I'm doing the best that I can. I need you to help me and guide me. That's a prayer right there. Lord, show me what you want me to do. And it takes us having prayer time, meditating. And yes, it does get hard when things look funny, when our money is funny, when we're not eating the way that we need to. Those are difficult times, but that's when we really have to surrender. And again, that's when people who are in position who can help, no matter how small the help is, $1, $5, $10. When, like you said, someone reaches out and they say, hey, can you help, or can you give, or can you donate your time? We can do that. We can do that. Maybe not I can't come to the whole event, but maybe I can do this, or maybe I can contribute that, so that I can make sure that, whatever I'm doing, there's an impact. We can share, we can disseminate information everywhere that we go. So that's what I would say with that, Dr. Jacalyn.
I applaud that. That's brilliant. And something I want to add on to what you just said, many times, and I've heard this because I do a lot of fundraising for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. I'll say to people, if you're reading this, anybody reading this, if you could just donate $1, and you see that they've read it, right? Because they clicked, they liked it, but they didn't donate. And you go back and say, hey, I just wondered why. What good is $1 going to do? $1 could mean a lot. $1 can add it to another $1 and another $1, but people feel embarrassed. So for example, if you see someone and they need money, if all you have is $1, give them $1, because you don't know, maybe they have 2 and now they have 3, and they could, whatever it is, that they could buy something to eat. So I think we need to get rid of this ego when it comes to helping people and actually deciding what we think we know is best. Oh, they can't use that. They're not going to want that. I only have an hour to donate my time. That's not going to be enough.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. Every little bit helps, because your little bit goes with somebody else's little bit. And before you look up, now you're blessing somebody with $300, $400, $500 because of the combined effort. God isn't saying we have to do it by ourselves. He never said that. He never said that. We just have to do our part. That's it. That's it.
That is so right. I want to touch on something else before we leave for today. And you must come back, by the way, because I could stay here with you for a week. So here's a question I have. Let's say we do the right things, right? We're doing what we believe God wants us to do, and we make a mistake. We lose our way. We get lost. And then we feel that we don't deserve to have God's love. That happens. People say, yeah, I left the church, or I don't believe in God because I let him down. Now I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. K?
Like I said, I grew up in church. So I knew the right things to do. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. And I can hear my sister's testimony this morning as she talked about the fact that she was a lukewarm Christian. So on Sunday, she was there, she was doing what she needed to do, but then she shifted, in the afternoon, or maybe afterwards she went somewhere she shouldn't go. What we got to realize is his grace and mercy are sufficient for us. He already knew that we were going to backslide. He already knew the mistakes we were going to make, but he still thought it not robbery for him to sacrifice his only son for us. So it doesn't matter how bad you think it is. God is like, you know what? I got you. My blood covers a multitude of sin. He has us. So we don't have to worry. We don't have to be embarrassed, because guess what? Just because my sin doesn't look like the next person's sin doesn't mean that it's not sin. Sin is sin. It doesn't matter. He's not saying it's high or it's low or you got intermediate sin. It doesn't matter. What he's saying is, I have the redemption. He has the redemption power. So he washes us as white as snow. It's not about what the other person is looking at and what they're thinking. It's about having your heart right with him. So no matter how far off you have strayed, remember, he will leave the 99 and come for the one. He's looking for us. He's following us. He's always with us. He's never going to leave us or forsake us. So it doesn't matter how bad things have gotten. God is still waiting with open arms. He is not man. He is not a man. He is saying, I love you. He is Abba Father. He is our Father. He created us. He knows the hairs on our heads. Come on now. He's waiting on us. Come on.
I love how you said that he already knew we were going to fall. We were already going to make a mistake. I remember I got divorced a very long time ago, and I used to go to church at the time every week, and I stopped going because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I got divorced. I felt like, oh, I'm the only one in the family who's divorced, and now God won't love me, and I don't deserve to be there. So I eventually went back to church, and it took some time because I just, and I realized it was the ego. It was the ego again, getting in the way.
Absolutely. Myself, my husband, Frank, and I was married prior to Frank, and it was difficult. In my book, I talk about the divorce. My divorce impacted, my relationship with my mom and I. And it was tough for a couple years. I mean, like, it really impacted. But you know what? I was still worthy. God said I still was enough. Did I know it when I was going through? I didn't. Was I embarrassed in certain situations and circumstances? I was on my job a whole year, and I was a special ed director for the 5th largest district here in Georgia. Nobody even knew I was married. I didn't tell them I changed my name, nothing. I'm going to work. I'm still wearing the ring, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm pretending. I was a whole big old mess. I was perpetrating a fraud until I was ready. And then I'm like, okay, my name is no longer this, it's this. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I've been divorced for a year. What? Yes, that part.
Dr. K, do you remember when that moment occurred when you said, okay, I'm going to step into my own light. I'm going to take this ring off. I'm going to tell people what's really happening?
I do. I had a few people who were kind of trying to be in my Kool-Aid, so to speak, and they thought that they knew. But, when I went down to human resources that day and told them that I needed them to change my email, and we started changing all of the stationery and all of that great stuff. And, I talked to my team and I addressed them first. And it was a weight that came off me, because I'm like, God was like, you didn't have to do this. Why? Why were you doing this? This wasn't about anybody else. This was your walk. Nobody else can fill those size 7 shoes, but nobody can wear them the way you wear them. These are your shoes. They might put them on, but it won't fit the same. It won't move the same. And just because you've gone through a divorce doesn't mean I love you any less. And I had to get past that.
Wonderful. And something else I just want to add to that is that we don't need other people to affirm what we're doing, right? So the fact that you didn't tell anyone is really nobody's business. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that it felt uncomfortable for you in your body because you were still wearing the ring and you weren't being true. And then you decided to just move forward, and this is what's happening. Whether people like it or not, that didn't matter either.
Yep. Mm-mm. Nope. Sure didn't. And I had to walk in it, because guess what? I filed for the divorce. I went through the divorce. They didn't. They weren't living in my house. They didn't have to go through what I was going through. me and God got through that, no matter what it looked like to anybody else.
I hear you. When I got divorced, a lot of people took his side, and he ended up some horrible things happened to him. And the people were like, "Oh, we never saw from your side." And I said, "Doesn't matter if you saw from my side or his side. I'm just living in my own skin, and I don't need people to come to me and take sides or not." But divorce is a hard thing to go through. But there are a lot of things that are hard to go through. And I think if we know God's with us and He's not judging us, and He, as to your point, He already knows we're going to make X, Y, Z mistakes, and He's still here for us.
Yes, He does.
So, Dr. K, please tell us again about these wonderful Facebook and YouTube lives that you do and the topics. And I think this is so important because the energy you have, and again, the authenticity, the transparency, the strength that you have is so needed in this world for unity and bringing people together.
Yes, indeed. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we go live on Facebook and YouTube. So you can catch me on Facebook at Trina King-Flucas, or you can tune in on YouTube at the Freedom by Design Movement, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Monday is Motivation Monday. Wednesday, we have a guest. It's Wisdom Wednesday. It's myself and a special guest, and we just have an intimate chat, and we allow people to come in the chat and give us some feedback and talk about overcoming adversity, what God is doing in their lives, if they have a ministry, a new business, whatever might be going on. And on Friday is Freedom Friday. So we would love to have some new Freedom followers with the movement. We are always excited. And it started as a whole movement in my mind. But God was like, baby girl, it's your ministry. It took me a long time to even say that. But to God be the glory. So please join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Motivation Monday, Wisdom Wednesday, Freedom Friday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
And where can we find your book?
And you can purchase the book on Amazon. And the book is called Exposed, Revealed in His Presence. Or you can buy it from our website, www.freedombydesign1.com. So you can get it on Amazon. That's Exposed. And it's Katrina King-Flucas. Or you can get it at our website, www.freedombydesign1.com.
It has been an absolute pleasure meeting you and having you here today on this Friday, taking us into the weekends with all this positive energy. I love it. And thank you to everyone who's been commenting. It's fantastic. So thank you. Please do come back, whether it's on this show or another show. I feel like we should be doing some kind of collaboration. I don't know what it is yet, but I feel it's out there.
Let's make it work. Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you again, Dr. K.
Take care, Dr. Jacalyn. Bye-bye.
Bye. We are going to close out our show today. And also, this is our 9th show today, which is a new record. We're going to close out the show with a wonderful music video. It was just launched today on this platform by Tony Moore. He is a singer-songwriter from the UK. And it's really an emotional song. I feel like there's a wonderful message in it. Tony produced the entire thing in one room of his home with a green screen. Everything you see are pictures. And I think it's just incredible what he has produced here. So take a look. It's called Never Gonna Say Goodbye, Tony Moore. I'm not going to say goodbye either. I'm going to say good night. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you have a fabulous holiday. We will be broadcasting next week. We'll be taking it on the road. So it's going to be our Thanksgiving broadcasting week of shows. Thank you to Dr. K, and thank you to Tony Moore for the beautiful music. And thank you to everybody who watched and engaged. We really appreciate it. I'll just end with an ask, which is please don't judge. Please don't judge. Just be kind and give people grace, because you never know what someone else is going through. We say this all the time, but we really have to think about it and put it into action. All right. Take care of yourselves. I'm really glad that you were here. And again, thank you so much. Bye.